I told my husband my DMs were full of men who would treat me better. Pretty bold statement, right? Well, now he's gone, and I'm alone. I guess I should start from the beginning, because trust me, this whole thing is just... Yeah, I'm Lexi, 35, and this is how I managed to blow up my entire marriage because I couldn't keep my mouth shut. I met Julian 6 years ago at Maggiano's. I was waiting tables, and he was the head chef. Not gonna lie, I totally had a thing for the way he'd get all serious during dinner rush, barking orders, and running that kitchen like a pro. He was 41, divorced, no kids, and honestly, way different from the guys I usually went for. Like, he actually had his life together, you know? The first time we really talked was when I messed up an order. Wrote down chicken marsala instead of chicken parm. Most chefs would have lost it, but Julian just fixed it, without making me feel stupid. Started leaving little taste tests of new dishes he was working on at the server station, always when I was on shift. Smooth, right? We started dating and it was like... good. Different good. Not exciting good like my past relationships, but stable good. Julian wasn't into the whole social media thing, he barely had Facebook. Meanwhile, I'm over here with my Instagram aesthetic, trying to build my following, because I've always dreamed of being a makeup artist. He didn't get it, but he didn't try to stop me either. At least not at first. We got married after 2 years, and I'm not gonna lie, the wedding was a whole thing. I wanted this gorgeous vineyard venue I saw on Pinterest, but Julian kept talking about budgets and being practical. We ended up having it at this little restaurant with a garden. It was nice, but every time I see my friends' wedding photos at these amazing venues, I still get this little twinge, you know? Right after we got married, Julian got promoted to district manager for the restaurant chain. More money, which was great, but also meant he was dealing with 5 different locations. Longer hours, more stress, coming home too tired to do anything fun. That's when I decided to quit waiting tables and focus on my makeup business. I mean, we could afford it with his new salary, right? Looking back, I probably should have noticed how quiet Julian got when I told him my plans. He didn't say no, he never really said no to anything, but he got that look. You know, the one where they're thinking something but don't want to start a fight? Yeah, that look. So I'm building my brand on Instagram, investing in all these high-end products because you can't be a serious makeup artist using drugstore stuff, right? And I'm seeing all these posts from girls I went to high school with, their husbands taking them to Cancun, buying them Gucci bags, building them home studios for their businesses. Meanwhile, Julian's idea of splurging is letting me order the expensive sushi rolls instead of just California rolls. That's when the comments started rolling in on my posts, mostly from guys, saying stuff like, "Your husband's a lucky man," or "Wish I had a girl like you." Julian saw some of them one night when I was showing him a makeup look I was particularly proud of. He got all weird about it, saying maybe I should make my account private. I told him he was being insecure and that engagement was important for growing my business. He dropped it, but things felt different after that. The real problem started when I connected with this group of other aspiring beauty influencers. Suddenly, I was seeing exactly what I was missing out on. These girls were living their best lives, their men supporting their dreams without counting dollars and cents. Meanwhile, Julian's checking our credit card statements and asking if I really need another eyeshadow palette when I already have 10. I started posting more, let's say artistic photos. Nothing crazy, just showing off my makeup looks with the right angles, the right outfits. The likes went up, the followers went up, and the DMs, well, they definitely went up. Julian hated it, said it felt disrespectful to our marriage. I told him he should be proud to have a wife other men find attractive. He didn't love that response. But you know what really got to me? When my high school friend Amber posted about how her husband surprised her with a home studio setup, professional lighting, cameras, the works, cost him like $5,000. When I showed Julian hinting that this was the kind of support I needed, he started talking about property values and investment accounts. Like, read the room, babe. That's when I really started noticing all those DMs from guys who seemed to actually get it. Looking back now? Nah. I still think Julian was being too controlling about the whole thing. I mean, what's the point of being married if your partner doesn't support your dreams? but I probably didn't need to tell him about all the messages I was getting from other guys. That might have been a bit much. Might have. Things really started going sideways when my makeup business wasn't taking off as fast as I expected. Like, I was doing everything right, posting 3 times a day, using all the right hashtags, investing in the best products. But booking actual clients? That was another story. The few weddings I did book barely covered the cost of my kit. Meanwhile, my credit card bills were getting kind of scary. That's when Julian hit me with the "maybe you should go back to waitressing part-time" suggestion. Like, way to believe in me, babe. We had this massive fight where he started pulling up our bank statements, talking about how I'd spent $3,000 on makeup and equipment in the last 2 months. He just didn't get it. You have to spend money to make money, right? Thank God for Kaylee. I met her at this local influencer meetup, and she just got it. You know? She was building her own fashion blog, and her husband Mark was totally supportive. Like, the man built her an entire filming room in their house. When I told her about Julian's suggestion that I go back to waitressing, she was properly horrified. "Girl," she said, "he should be encouraging you to quit that restaurant job, not trying to send you back to it." Kaylee introduced me to her whole circle, all these amazing women building their brands. Suddenly I was going to networking events, collab meetings, and daily coffee dates. Sure, most of them were during Julian's work hours, but shouldn't he be happy I was finally finding my people? The DMs really started rolling in then. My content was getting better, more professional. I started doing these tutorial videos, and yeah, maybe my tops were a little lower cut than necessary, but sex sells, right? These guys in my DMs got it. They were always telling me how talented I was, how any man would be lucky to support my dreams. Meanwhile, Julian's working later and later. When he does come home, he just wants to eat dinner and watch Netflix. Like, boring much? I started going out more with Kaylee and the girls. Why sit at home when I could be networking? Sometimes I wouldn't get home till after Julian was asleep. Sometimes I'd crash at Kaylee's place because it was too late to drive home. Julian didn't love it, but honestly, his reaction just proved Kaylee right about him being controlling. One night, I came home to find Julian sitting at the kitchen table with my latest credit card statement. Apparently, I'd maxed out another card on this amazing lighting setup I needed for my videos. He didn't yell. Julian never yells, but his disappointed dad voice was almost worse. He started talking about financial responsibility and living within our means and how my business wasn't generating any actual income. That's when I lost it. I pulled up my DMs right there and showed him messages from guys who were saying they'd support my dreams without question. Successful guys too, entrepreneurs, business owners, guys with verified accounts. These men get it, I told him. They understand what it takes to build something. Unlike you. The way Julian looked at me then, it wasn't even anger. It was like he was seeing me for the first time, and he didn't like what he saw. He just got up and went to bed without another word. But instead of feeling bad, I felt powerful, like, finally, he was realizing what he stood to lose. I posted this gorgeous selfie that night with some vague caption about knowing your worth. The comments and DMs poured in. Each notification felt like validation. See? All these people think I'm amazing. Why can't my own husband see it? Julian started getting quieter after that. He stopped asking about my spending or my late nights out. I thought I'd won, you know? Thought he'd finally realized he needed to step up his game. Boy, was I wrong about that one. What really set everything on fire was this one night when I was out with Kaylee. We were at this nice wine bar, the kind Julian always said was overpriced. And I was checking my credit card balance to see if I could order another round. That's when I saw it. A payment had been made. A big one. But I hadn't made it. I called Julian right there from the bar. Turns out he'd been paying off my credit cards behind my back. His excuse? He was worried about our credit score because he was thinking about us buying a house next year. Can you believe that? Making financial decisions about my debt without even asking me? I was livid. So yeah, I'd had a few glasses of wine and I was feeling extra spicy. I screenshot like 5 different DMs from guys who'd been hitting up my inbox. You know, the ones saying stuff like, "A woman like you deserves to be treated like a queen. and I'd never let my girls struggle to build her dreams. I sent them all to Julian with this text. Must be nice having all these successful men appreciate my worth, while my own husband tries to control me behind my back. He didn't respond. Not one word. I stayed at Kaylee's that night, posted a whole series of Instagram stories about knowing your worth and not settling for less than you deserve. The support was insane. Hundreds of comments from women saying I was so brave for standing up for myself. But then things got weird. Julian just stopped engaging. Like, completely. He started working even later, which I didn't even think was possible. When he was home, he was always on his phone or laptop, barely looking at me. I told myself this was just another one of manipulation tactics, trying to make me feel bad. So I doubled down. I started posting more shots from nights out, more makeup tutorials with slightly unbuttoned shirts, more inspirational quotes about outgrowing relationships. My followers ate it up. Every like, every thirsty comment, every supportive DM felt like proof I was right and Julian was wrong. Then one morning, I was using Julian's laptop to print some shipping labels for my makeup orders. Because I'd finally booked a few clients through Instagram, and I noticed he'd left his email open. I know, I shouldn't have looked. But something about the subject line, new position, final details, caught my eye. Turns out Julian had been offered some big promotion that would have basically doubled his salary. He turned it down 3 months ago because it meant moving to another city, and he knew I wouldn't want to leave my growing business and my new friends. He never even mentioned it to me. When I confronted him about it, you know what he said? Would it have mattered? That made me so mad. I did something kind of petty. I went into my DMs and actually replied to one of the guys who'd been consistently commenting on my posts. This dude Mike, who owned his own gym. We got coffee the next day. Nothing happened, seriously, but just knowing I could have options, it felt good, you know? What I didn't know was that Julian had finally figured out how to check his wife's public Instagram stories. Kaylee's husband Mark had shown him, apparently. So much for girl code, Kaylee. He saw me at that coffee shop. But did he confront me? Nope. Classic Julian, he just got even quieter. I should have noticed something was off when he stopped asking when I'd be home for dinner. Should have noticed he'd cleared out his side of the closet gradually, so slowly I didn't even realize until it was almost empty. Should have paid attention when he started having all these late meetings, but his car wasn't at the restaurant district office when I drove by that one night. But I was too busy building my brand, networking with potential clients, and enjoying the attention from my followers to notice my actual life was falling apart. Until that one night when I came home, late from another collab meeting, and found Julian calmly packing the last of his things in the living room. I remember standing there in my heels, still buzzing from the 2 glasses of wine I'd had, trying to process what I was seeing. "What are you doing?" I asked, like it wasn't obvious. Instead of answering, Julian just handed me his phone. There they were, screenshots of everything. My Instagram stories mocking our boring life together. The shady comments I'd been leaving in makeup groups about having a husband who doesn't support my dreams. Messages to Kaylee about how I was settling for Julian. And yeah, my coffee date with Mike from the gym. Nothing happened with Mike, I said immediately. Julian just gave me this look, like he was so tired. "That's really what you think this is about?" he asked. Then he showed me something else, his bank records. Turns out he'd been quietly paying off not just my credit cards, but also setting aside money for the business loans I'd taken out in both our names. You know, the ones I hadn't exactly told him about. "I can explain," I started, but Julian cut me off. "You don't need to explain," he said. "You've explained plenty on Instagram." Then he played me a voice message I'd sent to Kaylee after our fight about the credit cards. Me, laughing about how I had Julian wrapped around my finger, and how he'd never actually leave, because he was too boring to start over. I felt sick. Not because I'd said those things, I mean I was just venting to a friend, right? But because of how Julian was looking at me. Like I was a stranger. A mean one. "You want to know the funny part?" he said, zipping up his last bag. "I was saving up to surprise you with that home studio you kept talking about. Had the contractors lined up and everything." He pulled out some papers from his laptop bag. Blueprints for converting our garage into a professional makeup studio. The date on them was from 2 months ago. I should have apologized. Should have begged him to stay. Should have promised to do better. Instead, you know what I did? I doubled down. Well, if you'd just told me that instead of acting all secretive and controlling, maybe I wouldn't have needed to vent to my friends. Julian actually laughed at that. Not a happy laugh. You're doing it right now, he said. Even now, you can't take responsibility for anything. He picked up his bags. I already signed a lease on a new place. My lawyer will be in touch about the divorce papers. Divorce? That word hit me like a slap. You're really gonna blow up our marriage over some Instagram posts and one coffee date? No, Lexi, he said, heading for the door. You already did that. I'm just finally accepting it. He stopped in the doorway. Oh, and you should probably check the joint account. I've moved my portion to a separate account. Left enough to cover next month's rent. After that, he shrugged. Maybe one of those guys in your DMs can help you out. I grabbed my phone, ready to post the mother of all rants about manipulative men and their fragile egos. But when I opened Instagram, I discovered Julian had already unfollowed me, and blocked me, and changed his relationship status to separated on Facebook. The worst part? He'd done it hours ago, and I hadn't even noticed because I was too busy editing the perfect filter on my latest selfie. I went full girl boss mode after Julian left. Posted this whole thing about leveling up and removing negative energy from my life. The support was insane. Hundreds of comments from women calling me brave, telling me I deserved better. My DMs were flooding with messages from guys who'd been waiting for their chance. And you know what? For like a week, it felt amazing. Then, reality hit, like a freight train. First, it was the bills. They started coming in and I realized I had no idea what half of them even were. Julian had apparently been handling everything: utilities, insurance, car payments, even our phone plan. And then there were all my credit cards. Turns out when you only make minimum payments, interest is a real witch. I tried reaching out to some of those guys who'd been all "I'd treat you like a queen" in my DMs. Funny how fast they disappeared when I actually needed help. One guy agreed to meet for dinner, but surprise, he expected me to pay because isn't that what strong, independent women do? Another one turned out to be married, and the rest? They just wanted... Well, you can guess what they wanted. And it wasn't to help me with my electricity bill. My makeup business wasn't exactly booming either. Turns out, most of my following was just thirsty guys who had zero interest in actually booking me for services. The few clients I did have started canceling when they saw my relationship drama playing out online. One bride literally told me she didn't want that kind of energy at her wedding. Kayri? Yeah, she ghosted me the minute I couldn't keep up with her lifestyle. Apparently, our friendship was built on splitting bottles of overpriced wine and complaining about our husbands. Once I couldn't afford the wine and didn't have a husband to complain about, poof, gone. I had to get a job. Like, a real job. Ended up back at another chain restaurant, waiting tables again. Do you know how humiliating it is to serve tables to people who used to follow your makeup tutorials? To have them whisper and point, wondering what happened to your amazing business and living your best life posts? But the real kick in the teeth came when I found out through mutual friends that Julian had moved to Chicago. Remember that promotion he never told me about? He took a better one. District executive chef for the entire Midwest region. Corner office, company car, 6-figure salary, the whole package. The kind of success that would have made my makeup studio dreams look like child's play. I tried calling him once when I was having a particularly rough night after a double shift. His number was disconnected. I tried emailing. It bounced back. I even tried reaching out through his sister on Facebook. She left me on read. The divorce papers came a week later. No drama, no fights over property. Julian was being more than fair with the settlement. His lawyer even arranged a payment plan for me to pay back the business loans he'd been covering. It was like he just wanted to close this chapter of his life as quietly as possible. Meanwhile, I'm still living in our old apartment, except now I can barely afford it on my waitressing salary. I had to sell most of my makeup inventory just to cover bills. My Instagram following dropped by half once I stopped posting thirst traps and started being real about my life. Turns out, people don't want to see stories about picking up extra shifts and eating ramen for dinner. 6 months after Julian left, I'm sitting in my car after another double shift, scrolling through Instagram because I'm too tired to drive home yet. That's when I see it. Julian's sister posted a picture at some fancy restaurant opening in Chicago. And there he is, looking happier than I've ever seen him with his arm around this woman. I do what any normal person would do. I deep dive through every social media account I can find. Her name's Rachel. She owns 3 restaurants in Chicago. They met at some food industry event. She's gorgeous in this effortless way, like she's not even trying. And get this, her Instagram is all food pics and behind-the-scenes restaurant stuff. Like 0 selfies, 0 inspiration quotes, 0 drama. The divorce was finalized last week. Julian's lawyer sent over the last paperwork through email. I didn't even get to see him one last time. The settlement was fair. Maybe too fair, considering how much debt he helped pay off. But I've already blown through most of my share trying to keep up appearances and cover bills. My phone buzzes. Another overdraft notice from my bank. I ignore it and keep scrolling. Rachel just posted a picture of Julian in chef's whites, teaching some cooking class to underprivileged kids. The caption talks about how proud she is of her amazing man and his community work. The comments are full of mutual friends saying what a perfect match they are. So here I am, sitting in my car in the parking lot of the same chain restaurant where this whole story started, filming a tearful rant about how some men just can't handle a strong woman who knows her worth. I'll probably post it later when I'm home, even though my following has dropped so low it barely matters anymore. I've got 3 unread messages from guys in my DMs telling me they'd treat me better than Julian ever did. But now I know what that really means. They just want what those DM slides always want. None of them are offering to help with my maxed out credit cards or late rent. Everyone keeps telling me I need to move on and learn from this experience. But you know what? I still don't think I did anything wrong. Julian was the one who couldn't handle my ambition, my dreams. He was the one who left instead of stepping up. He was the one who gave up on us. Sure, maybe I shouldn't have thrown those DMs in his face. Maybe I should have paid more attention to our finances. Maybe coffee with Mike wasn't my smartest move. But Julian didn't have to blow up our whole marriage over it. He could have tried harder to understand me, to support me, to be what I needed. I check my phone again, another bill notification. Below it, there's an email from Julian's lawyer confirming our divorce is officially recorded, and under that, an old calendar reminder pops up. 6-year anniversary. I delete it. Tomorrow I'll post something about new beginnings and choosing myself. I'll put on a brave face at work, serve my tables, and pretend I don't see the pitying looks from people who remember when I was going to be the next big beauty influencer. I'll ignore the fact that my ring finger feels empty, that my apartment feels too quiet, that my life feels like it's running in reverse. But right now I'm just sitting in my car, wondering how I ended up here. How I went from having a man who paid off my credit cards in secret to drowning in bills and overdraft fees. From planning a home studio to picking up extra shifts just to make rent. From being a wife to being just another cautionary tale about social media versus reality. The funny thing is, my DMs are still full of men who say they'd treat me better. But now I know better than to believe them. Not that I'd admit that in my next Instagram story, though. Some things are better left on read, like those final messages from Julian's lawyer, and the reality check I probably should have given myself months ago.